This is Popular Front, a podcast focused on the niche details of modern warfare and underreported conflict with me, Jake Hanrahan. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently because for this episode we're going to be speaking about the unfortunate death of JStark. Now, if you don't know who JStark is, I suggest you go to the Popular Front YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/popularfront. Look for a documentary that we made called Plastic Defense. It's got 2.3 million views as of October 2021. It's all about JStark and this 3D printed weapon that he has made, the FGC-9. That stands for Fuck Gun Control 9mm. JStark is essentially the pioneer of 3D printed firearms in Europe. Him and his colleague came up with the designs for the FGC-9. It's a 3D printed submachine gun. 80% of it is literally made of plastic. It's very clearly deadly. It does not blow up in your hands when fired. Whatever you think about guns, this thing is very well made. And in the documentary Plastic Defense, we went and met JStark. He's out in Western Europe, or he was. And we met him and we spent time with him. It took me 3 years, 2 to 3 years, I think it was, of talking to JStark before he agreed that yes, we can go and film with him. And obviously over those 3 years, I got to know him. I got to know him off camera. And, you know, I think it's sad that he's dead, actually. I mean, you'll see the doc, I very clearly disagree with him on a lot of things. But, you know, I think it's sad. I've had people say, oh, you shouldn't say that, you know, you're a journalist. Fuck out of here, man. This is Popular Front, not CNN, you know. And JStark was a kind of lonely guy. And yeah, okay, you know, a lot of his ideas, perhaps you, me, everybody doesn't agree with, but he had his ideas and he believed in them. He was not far left, he was not far right, he didn't fit into those kind of categories. He was just a guy that believed in extreme free speech and extreme weapons ownership. So he believed that anybody has the right to own a firearm because, you know, if a government turns tyrannical, how are you going to defend yourself and fight back against them, you know? And I think that anybody who does like to be free can definitely appreciate that there should be a way to defend yourself from a tyrannical government. I mean, well, you know, you can't just be walked on. And obviously in Europe, gun ownership is a lot more difficult than it is perhaps in the States. And JStark was taking massive risks. And yeah, he took a massive risk and he knew all the risks and he was very happy to break the law to do what he was doing. And yeah, so unfortunately now he's dead. So let's talk about what actually happened. We will be hearing from someone from the 3D printed gun community, the global 3D printed gun community that JStark was a part of and is seen as a legend and somewhat of a martyr now in it. We will be hearing from Vin Win later. He's going to be talking to us about the kind of reaction in that community. But, you know, let's just kind of look at what's actually happened first. I would say out of any reporter, I knew JStark the most. You know, I'm the one that got access. I'm the one that filmed with him. I spoke to him over the course of 3 years. And yeah, it came out recently this week, or last week rather, the end of last week, that JStark is dead. And so basically, here's what we know. So details are still kind of, you know, a little bit up in the air. But from what we're seeing, Der Spiegel, the German newspaper, so they're saying that basically a British financial firm was looking into, you know, some some unusual purchases from someone that they say eventually turned out to be JStark. Now, they say financial firms. There's some talk, which I think it's quite, from what I know from the sources that I have, is quite reliable. There's some talk that these firms were eBay and Coinbase. Now, I don't know how British they are, but I know that those two financial firms, allegedly within the gun community and allegedly from people that were connected to JStark, it was those firms that kind of started reporting who would be JStark to the police. And these transactions led back to Germany. Now, from what I understand, there was some, operational security OPSEC mistakes made by JStark, which kind of led, rather than instead to a dead end, it led the police to identify him. And what happened was in June, this article says, in June, late June, investigators launched a raid on what they say was one of JStark's apartments. Apparently, a commando stormed his apartment, so obviously there would have been full gear, everything, guns. They found a 3D printer, several mobile phones, hard drives, and a laptop, but no weapons. So basically, this guy, they're saying it's JStark, they're naming him as Jacob D. Everybody knows now it was JStark, he's dead, so, it is what it is. But basically, they're saying that JStark was there, he got raided, and the weapons, so the FGC-9s, Mark 1 and Mark 2, I don't know if he had more, I don't know, and we didn't speak after the doc. But, apparently those were all gone. So they're already gone. So who knows where they are? They're out there somewhere. I don't know. Maybe the police have found them. I don't know. Only JStark, I guess, knew that. But now he's dead. It says here that he was allowed to remain free. So not really sure what happened. Initial reports said he was arrested, but it seems that he wasn't. He was allowed to remain free. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I guess you can't arrest someone for owning a 3D printer and having a laptop, even if they do think it's JStark. It says to me maybe they didn't have as much evidence perhaps as they thought. Maybe they went on the raid a little bit too quick and they didn't find any weapons. I don't know what happened, but who knows what the police do. Says then 2 days after the raid, relatives found his body. So they found JStark in a car that was parked in front of his parents' home in Hanover. An autopsy was unable to reveal a clear cause of death, but coroners ruled out foul play. Investigators fear that JStark can now be viewed in the scene as a martyr. That's already happening. Coroners, though, believe he died a natural death, even though the official cause remains undetermined. Now, apparently, this is what the article says, that he had a weak heart, and perhaps he died of a heart attack, heart failure, whatever, because of this weak heart, this heart defect that he'd had apparently from birth. Now, very callously, one of the investigating officials says perhaps the excitement was just too much for him. I think that's very clearly, one of the police officers kind of being like, haha, he's dead sort of thing. I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories going around. Oh, the German police killed him. Or there's some theories that perhaps JStark would have taken his own life because, it's kind of known that he was a lonely guy. He had depression issues. That is definitely not like a secret. It's not something that, a few people knew that. But, at the end of the day, he also was a very outspoken guy. I think if he would have killed himself, I think perhaps there would have been a note. Perhaps he would have put something online before the end. Or maybe there was a note and maybe it was on him. Maybe the police were like, right, get rid of that because we don't want the world, hearing anything else from him. I mean, they certainly tried to keep it quiet that he died, for 4 months until this Der Spiegel reporter dug into it. But who knows? I don't know. I imagine the way that JStark was, if he knew, right, I'm going to commit suicide because of all this situation, then I think surely he would have put something out online. He lived his life online in many ways. So I don't know. The police are basically saying that, he was in the car outside the house and just died of a heart attack in the car 2 days after the raid. There's some people, like I said, they think the police killed him. Look, there's a lot of problems with the German police. They have a very big problem with far-right activity. They have a problem with, using excessive force, violence on citizens. This year they had to disband one of their crack commando units because they found out that a load of them were planning a far-right attack. Just Google German police day X, you can read all about that. So there's obviously issues, there's problems, as there is with any police force. But does that mean do I think, well, yeah, sure, they killed JStark? Well, look, surely it would be a lot better for them to have arrested him and been like, look, we got the godfather of 3D printed guns in Europe. We got your man. Like, surely that would have been a bigger propaganda coup for them, because they then could have, someone would have got a fucking promotion or some shit or whatever. How it does work with the police, I don't know. But, they could be like, look, we're keeping this off the street. We've got the head of the FGC9 network, if you like, in Europe. We got the guy that made the thing. Surely that would have been a big thing for the cops. And then, if they were really inclined to kill the guy, I'm sure they could have had it done in prison once he was in jail. A lot easier than, I don't know, than it just, look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I know the cops do bad shit, and I know that people like JStark are the kind of people that governments really do not want getting too much attention. But look, maybe he killed himself, maybe did something to induce the heart attack. I don't know, but it is what it is. I'm not really interested in talking about theories with anybody. JStark is gone. And like I said, I got to know the lad, and it's funny, in this kind of job that I've had, I've been doing this, nearly 10 years now. I've met some of the most interesting people. And JStark was definitely one of them, it was definitely one of them. And yeah, when I found out he was dead, it hit me like a fucking bus, I'll be honest. I just thought, no, like, fuck, it's sad, and I get it. As I said before, people saying, oh, you shouldn't be sad. And, if that's what you think is a good reporter, to have no empathy, fine. If you think that I should just keep my mouth shut and not, make the tribute video as we did to him for Popular Front, mind your own business. That's up to you. So we did what we think we did. Like I said, in the doc, there's a lot of things that I disagreed with JStark about. You can see it clearly. We had, kind of intense arguments or debates within that doc on camera. But just know, if I didn't question JStark the way I did, we wouldn't have got those incredible monologues from him, those snippets that you're all posting now. So, the funny thing is, there's a lot of people on the left and the right, they're like, oh, journalism is shit, it doesn't do this, and it's not, it's not challenging ideas. What a lot of those people actually mean is, why isn't this rubbing my belly for me and making me think that I'm right? So I think the best thing about Plastic Defense is anyone that watches it kind of comes out like open from it, like, what the fuck, actually he had a point with this, or he had a point with that. So I think that's better. That's what journalism should do, to kind of give you an idea of things, make your own mind up. That's up to you. I know JStark said it was one of the best things that he was a part of, the doc, and he felt that it represented him in a fair way. One thing I will say about JStark is, I said to him, look, this is not a fucking promotional trailer for the FGC9 and your group and what you believe in. I will not be including what you want. I will make this doc how I want, and it will be a journalistic endeavor. And every time he just said, yeah, cool. Absolutely. Like, he didn't, when he says he was completely about free speech, from what I saw of him, that seemed to be true to me. He didn't try and hinder my work at all. And yeah, one thing that I think was kind of funny when the doc came out, actually, was there were some, these like hyper offended type people. They're like professionally offended. They only really exist on Twitter, but Twitter's a big thing. So they were on Twitter, and despite JStark saying in the documentary, we kick Nazis and racists and, jihadists out of our group if we find out about them, despite him saying that, these kind of offended people were like, JStark is clearly a white nationalist, and, his ideas are all about white nationalists, despite him saying, why doesn't the world care about the Muslim Uyghurs in China being oppressed? They still decided that, because he's a tough and kind of outspoken person, that somehow he's now a white nationalist or some kind of far right guy. Well, JStark was Kurdish, so not a very good white nationalist, if that was, if that's what people thought. No, JStark was Kurdish. And, we had a lot of discussions about, the Kurdish resistance, because obviously I've done a lot of work in Kurdistan, filming with Kurdish fighters. And JStark, he held his identity very close to his chest, but he was very proud of being a Kurd. And, he thought what the YPG had done in Syria was great. He was very happy to see that Kurds were fighting with dignity to, kind of carve something out for themselves whilst being crushed and oppressed. And you know, I think a lot of people now after watching it are like, oh, it makes sense that the way he had these views, it's because he was Kurdish. I disagree with that. I don't think it's just because he was Kurdish. It's because he had his ideas, and that was that, you know. I'm sure he would have known from a young age that if you don't fight back against oppression, you will be walked on and you won't exist anymore. Sure, he would have understood that from a very young age because of his Kurdish background. However, you know, I certainly don't want to spin this and kind of talk on JStark's behalf and act as if, like, you know, he was an apogee, he was like hardcore into democratic confederalism, he believed in every tenet of the YPG. No, that isn't true. But he liked what was happening there, and he was proud of that, you know. I heard him speak Kurdish a few times even, and it was all kind of revolutionary stuff that he was saying. So yeah, man, I think, I know that the world would want to, he would have wanted the world to know that, yeah, he was a Kurd. There was some report initially said he was of Turkish origin. No, he was Kurdish. You know, so you know, that is out there. There's not really much else, I guess, I can say about this, but I just wanted to explain the situation. And obviously Plastic Defense is the biggest documentary that Popular Front has ever made. And as I said on Twitter, when all this kind of came out last week that JStark had died, this was nothing to do with us. Let me just be clear. Popular Front does not burn sources. I do not burn sources. And the police didn't even get in contact with me or anything like that. We did a lot to protect JStark's anonymity, and ask anyone in the 3D printed gun community. He was happy with every step that we took. He felt that it was enough. He was happy with it, and he was appreciative of the fact that, you know, this is what we did. It's journalistic integrity. You know, it is what it is. You protect your sources. As I've already mentioned, it was financial services reporting JStark to the police that eventually led to his raid, this raid that happened. But yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to kind of be clear on that. And even in the article, there's nothing even about, you know, Popular Front being the reason why. I think there'd already been, from what the article said, this Der Spiegel article, the police were already onto him. They'd been investigating him for quite a while. I mean, the Popular Front doc came out in 2020. I'm pretty sure if the police were on him like that, it would have happened quickly after that. As it stands, the raid happened in June, again after these financial services reported the activities to the police. But yeah, anyway, like I said, nothing else really to say, I guess. JStark, he was 28 years old. He's now passed away, you know, rest in peace. And I think, you know, it's not really, it spans all political spectrums. Well, not really. I guess if you're a fascist, you don't like freedom. But, you know, he said, live free or fucking die. And I disagree with him in a lot of things, but that I agree with completely. You know, it's very important for people to have their dignity, to have their own personal autonomy, and to be free. Freedom means different things to people, different people, sure, but whatever. You know, rest in peace, JStark. We're going to hear from Vin Win. Again, he's a part of the 3D printed gun community that JStark was also a part of. He's just going to give us some idea of the kind of reaction and the impact that the loss of JStark has made on that community. Because I didn't want this to just be all me talking. I know I've rambled for like 20 minutes. Don't worry, I won't make a habit of this because it would be very annoying for me to just be talking for an episode. But with something like this, you know, it's a big situation. Popular Front's biggest doc. The main character is dead. It's, you know, I just felt like I should have to go and say, like, look, this is what happened. This is the way I feel about it. Because, you know, ultimately there were parts of JStark that I really liked. Parts that I didn't like, but that's life. You know, life is not binary. It's not one or the other. It's nuanced. And anyone that thinks it is just binary, that's a very boring way to look at the world, I think. You know, people have depth, people have layers, and you can be interested and enjoy people for various different reasons. We don't all have to, you know, mark these kind of check boxes to be appreciated or for you to appreciate someone. Online, in the Twitter kind of political discourse, sure, everybody has to be all or nothing, but that's not real life. That's very boring. Don't dedicate your time to that because you'll miss out on some of the most interesting people in life. Anyway, now we're going to hear from Vin. Sadly, we know now that JStark has passed away. Maybe just give us an idea of what the response was within the kind of, you know, the 3D printed gun community that he was a part of.
Well, the response based on what I'm reading is a lot of shock, and a lot of speculation, especially regarding the circumstances and how he passed. I know that when I got the news, I was caught very off guard, and I was like, "You gotta be pulling my leg," and they're like, "No, we're not." And it's like, "Oh wow, like this is like I don't know what to say." Like my first speculation was, "Oh my gosh, this is really suspicious," but we don't know, the facts for sure what exactly happened. It's just I don't know, it's just a complete total shock. But on the other hand, it also wasn't completely, how I say, unexpected, because I'm absolutely certain that Stark must have known the inevitable. I guess we just didn't realize it would come this soon.
Yeah, yeah. So you think like he knew that eventually he might have got caught?
Right. The environment that he's in, right? The environment he lives in, like a very anti gun kind of law and system, and the fact that he had to go to that many lengths to conceal his identity and cover his tracks. Just there's he probably accepted that kind of risk that, oh hey, XYZ circumstance might happen at a point in time, and I guess if I was him, I'd probably expect the inevitable. It's just the fact that it happened so soon, after his gun was released and all that stuff was just takes you a little off guard.
Yeah, man. And for people kind of completely unrelated to this whole world, not in these circles at all, maybe just give us an idea of how big a kind of character, or at least person, JStark was within the 3D printed gun community, based off of his work, at least.
So Stark, for the lay people out there, Stark was basically someone who was entirely anonymous, right? You didn't really know who he was. All you knew was that he was cooking up a design that would ultimately anger the bodies that be. And he had principles, he had ideals that he stuck to. He was consistent in that. And this character wrapped in mystique, right, and his ideals that resonate with so many people, of course it makes sense that people would look up to him and say, oh hey, this is someone who's on our side. He's fighting for us. He's on the good side. And so that's the kind of personality that Stark was, right? You didn't know him, right, but you at least felt that he was a friend, or at least someone that was really consistent, someone who cared about the rights of people to free speech and self-defense. And so it's strange that even though the people have never met him, right, they still felt a connection to his persona, and a connection to his cause, because for all intents and purposes he was the face of the cause, right, working on a product that let anyone who needed a gun have access to it, and someone who collaborate with like-minded people to think of ways to get traditionally hard to obtain items like barrels and ammunition, bring that within the realm of possibility.
Yeah. And since he's died, I know in the police report there, or at least in the article, the police said that, oh, they're worried that JStark is going to become some kind of martyr. From what I can see, it seems to be kind of happening already. I mean, what do you reckon?
The fact that they're afraid he'll become some kind of martyr means that they're afraid of him. I know you know about the legend of Mr. He-Mayer in the States, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
bulldozer man, right?
Yeah, yeah.
they parted up his bulldozer because they were afraid, they being, the state and the government were afraid that people would take memorabilia home from the junkyard and, immortalize them. And that's exactly what people did. Even though there weren't any memorabilia to go around, they immortalized them, and they told his story to, the people around them, and they'll tell the kids their story. And it just shows that the state is afraid of people who dare defy the norm, right? Who dare to secure their own freedoms and not let themselves or others be subjugated. Um, so, I mean, it's not unexpected that the German government would say that, Um, that's actually really a little funny that they would say that, because it just shows, how afraid they are of the people and the power the people have.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to go into any theories too deeply here, but what I found interesting was that the article says that the post-mortem, the autopsy, it said that it was inconclusive, but at the same time they're saying, he had this heart defect, he had poor health, he had a heart, they're saying he had a heart attack. Some people have said, yeah, they knew about it. Some said, no, we've never heard about it. I mean, did you hear anything about this, when he was alive, that he had a heart problem?
I heard it from close people in the community,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna, rule that out as a certainty. I do empathize with the shock and anger of other people, though, because this is a movement that is naturally skeptical of, the state, right? And
Yeah.
what happens when the state investigates itself, right? So of course I understand the skepticism, and I mean, when I told my family, right, they watched, the Popular Front documentary, and their reaction was like, "Oh, Vin, you need to be careful." I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it." And then when I told them, "Hey, remember that guy that you saw on, Jake's documentary? He passed."
Mm.
And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then the next day they came back to me and they said, "We think he was assassinated." I was like, "No, no, 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 I don't think
No.
so."
No.
But the fact that even lay people think, due to circumstances, he was assassinated. Of course, I know I'm empathetic to why, and understand why people are speculating that. I can't say for sure if he was or wasn't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I mean, the heart thing, like you said, some people seem to have known about it. It seems to me clear that he has said to at least some people before he died, yes, I had this heart problem. And yeah, I just, the assassination, like, surely not. Surely for them, it would be a way bigger thing to say, look, we arrested the kind of guy that brought the FGC-9 to the world. Like, surely for the police, that would have been better for them, than quietly kill him and then actually tell nobody, I mean, JStark died in June and we're only finding out now, it just, I don't know, it's a weird one. In terms of the FGC-9, obviously JStark's gun that he kind of gave to the world, if you like, it's out there now, whether you like it or not, it's out there. A lot of them are moving around Europe right now and the rest of the world. What do you think the future holds for that? Do you think, the work is going to continue, or do you think it dies with JStark?
I think the work is going to press on. That you have, countless developers and countless people engaged on, catalog, deterrence, suspense, and, even places like Aussie, right? There's people definitely carrying on the spirit of do-it-yourself guns and accessible guns for anyone who, has a, sincere, urgent need for one. So I don't think it would be, I would say it'd be almost, how to say, cynical to think that the movement dies with Stark. And it won't, and it hasn't, Stark was someone who just rallied everyone together, because he represented the ideal of the person who would work tirelessly and without pay to give accessible arms to people that need it. So
yeah, a lot of people have seen JStark through obviously the documentary that I made, and that's like one side of him. But is there anything you think people should know about him that is perhaps not evident from the doc?
I think the doc succinctly captures who he is. A consistent person, consistent views and morals, and someone who puts out great work for others, selflessly. And I think, that that's probably the best way to capture his memory.
All right, mate. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
No, that's it for me. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Cool. If people want to, follow your work, what you're doing, where can they do that? Like Twitter or wherever?
So you can find me on Twitter at Nguyen NGUYEN KVVN. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I also have a Patreon too, same handle. I usually post guns and do-it-yourself work and all that stuff too. So be sure to stop by.
All right, mate. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
To bear firearms is a human right. The government or the entity that has the rule over you has an executive force, the police, the military, they have firearms. To be able to escape that injustice, they need to have the same force on the individual level as the executive force of the government entity that is ruling over them. There are certain circumstances in my life which are unfortunate, which make living kind of painful, and sometimes I do not have anything to look forward to. But with me, I have nothing to lose. And to be able to accept the risk to die at any time, basically. Live free or die. These are not empty words. We do not want harm to anyone. We want everyone to live peacefully amongst each other. And we want people to have the freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. And if that's too politically extreme for you, fuck yourself. Live free or die.